All right, well, good afternoon and welcome to the Georgia Tech Athletics Town Hall. I thought COVID was only person to person, but I guess we had some bugs of our own along the way, so I apologize for the hang up and getting people involved. For those that don't know me, my name is Jim Hall. I'm the Associate Vice President for Development. I'm in my 23rd year here at Georgia Tech and have certainly enjoyed the relationships and friendships with many of you on the call today. To me, really, you all are what make Georgia Tech great, so thank you for that. We're calling this a town hall as we hope to not only inform but involve everyone on the call today. So please, there's a tab there, a Q&A tab. Please ask questions as you think of them. I believe there's a slight delay. So again, if you have the questions, write them in. We have someone that's looking at them, and certainly throughout this meeting, we will address it, and if not, certainly at the end. So again, please ask questions. We'll try and address everything, but again, it's supposed to be, again, not only to inform, but to involve everybody here on the call. Thanks for joining us. We certainly hope all is well in your world. And with that, I'm nodding as if Todd's sitting right next to me here, but here's your athletic director, Todd Stansbury.
Good afternoon, everybody. And of course, we trust that you are all well and safe and keeping it that way. Of course, at Georgia Tech here, we've been in a unique world like y'all in multiple Zoom calls a day, and of course in the Murphy's Law of presentations, there's always seems to be a little bit of a glitch, especially when you're doing something of this magnitude. I know that we've got a couple of hundred joining us today, and really appreciate the opportunity to kind of share what's been going on and give you a little bit of information about the future, of which a lot of it is still a moving target, but we'll do the best that we can. Just to just remind people of where we left off. When we unfortunately were shutting things down in the spring, baseball was ranked in the top 20, golf was third in the country, women's tennis was 8th in the country. And you see that throughout the spring, incredible highlights that despite the fact that we've moved into this remote world that we're in right now, a lot of great things were happening at Georgia Tech Athletics. One of the things, and so our APR, 14 of our 15 teams are above the national average, and the one team that didn't missed it by a point. And to give that some context, last year we were 15 of 15, and we were the only Power 5 program in the country that had every team above the national average in their respective against their respective competition. Of course, Tyler Davis being selected by the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think, is a great, obviously a great achievement for that young man in our football program, but I think it also shows where we're moving and the direction in which we're going. A tight end. Maybe some of you watched the 1990 game against Virginia last night or a couple nights ago, whenever it was. It all kind of blends together after a while. But that team had the last tight end ever drafted from Georgia Tech. So it's been a long time. And Tyler's also the highest, he's the highest drafted tight end we've ever had, which I think just is such a significant statement as to where this program is headed. A number of All-Americans, both in women's tennis and men's golf. And then one of the things that we did when it looked like our seniors at Georgia Tech were not going to get a normal graduation as a gift to them, we automatically offered every graduating senior at Georgia Tech a free Stinger pass for the upcoming season. So just a couple of the highlights. And the last one, which was the first one, we had to basically turn around our entire program in a week. in how we were going to support our student athletes, and there was not a more significantly impacted unit within our department than academic support. All of a sudden, we had to go remote. How were we going to tutor 400 plus student athletes all over the world, every time zone imaginable, and make sure that they were able to complete their semester on a high note? And not only did they do that, they set a record GPA, semester GPA of 3.23. 70% of our student athletes are registered at least a 3.0 GPA. So just an incredible accomplishment, not only for the young men and women that had to actually do the work, and that's our student athletes, but it was an all hands on deck effort by our academic staff, our coaches, and and actually staff members that just pitched in to help with monitoring, tutoring sessions and study hall. Since these things were going around the clock, there were times when we were having to do these in the middle of the night to support student athletes that were in Europe and other places internationally. So an incredible spring despite despite the hurdles. Georgia Tech stays in the news and has been in the news. Have been incredibly innovative in how we've been able to make sure that our brand is out there. Our coaches continue to recruit at the highest level and also support our student athletes regardless of where they may be located. And that includes our coaches, our strength staffs, academics, nutrition, sports medicine, mental health. All of these things we've been able to deliver remotely. And not only that, it has also given us the opportunity, which has unfortunately been forced on us, to create vehicles by which we do or are able to communicate with our student athletes and make sure that they continue to have the support they would normally have if they were on campus. With that, when I first got here, and I know many of you on the call, this is probably your fourth state of the department from me. You remember that when I set out our 4 top priorities, the number one priorities were brand, culture, infrastructure, and revenue. And I think there's no person that has moved the needle farther and faster on elevating our story, elevating our brand than Coach Collins. And I want to basically turn it over to him now to give you some updates on what's been happening in his program. You're on mute.
Looks like I did. Hey, is that better, Todd?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. Big thanks to Todd for all that he does, the leadership that he provides, the direction that he sets, and the way that he's embraced being innovative and communicating with all of us Georgia Tech head coaches on a weekly basis to keep us involved and engaged on the latest things that happen, and it changes sometimes by the hour with the direction that we're going. But he does a great job, and just thankful for him. I'm looking at the graphic right there. I don't know if y'all see it still, but of downtown Atlanta, Bobby Dodd Stadium. Ever since I was a little kid, that has been one of the most beautiful sights that I could ever imagine. And this has been my dream job since I was a little guy. And going into the interview, I knew this was going to be one of the most historic transitions in the last 40 years of college football. And instead of talking about that throughout the entire interview, I talked about brand and culture. And I'm glad that I hit the right tone because that's what I truly believe needed to be changed and elevated for Georgia Tech to return to the place that we're supposed to be in the landscape of college football. And it's just a blessing to be, aligned with our athletic director to bring us back to where we're supposed to be. But the piece with the brand, the piece with the culture is the relationships. And the last 18 months, the relationships that we've been able to forge with our players across the organization. People see on the surface how hard our guys play, the really innovative things that we do on social media, how we market our program to the recruits and to the fan base. But the core of who we are is in that locker room, how we work together, how we love each other, how we care for each other. And that is through the coaching staff to the players. And we've actually thrived in this virtual environment. The levels of communication that we have across the organization is unheard of in the realm of college football. I talk to peers all across the country, how they're doing things, what their struggles are, what their successes are, and no one is doing what we do with the communication piece, with the relationship piece with our student athletes. We have position meetings every single day. We have our off-season teams that meet twice a week. 2 times a week, me and our head strength coach, Lou Coralla, connect with every single player on our roster. And that's unheard of right now in the landscape of college football. There might be a head coach once a week, see 10 to 15% of their players. Every single week, twice a week, we're connecting with every player on our roster. And that has helped us keep the relationship strong, elevating our bonds throughout this entire thing. And it's been really good. We've got 7 Georgia Tech grads on our coaching staff. And that was huge for me to be able to bring people that love this great institution, understand what it takes to be a student athlete at this great place, and have been able to navigate, bring some former players that haven't been around in a long time back to the facility, back engaged with us. And that has been huge for the likes of Marco Coleman and Brent Key and Tashard Choice to be every single day with our players has been amazing. Todd talked about the GPA. It's the highest GPA in Georgia Tech football history as well. We set out in January with a goal to go 0.10 above our cumulative GPA as a team. Well, that number actually went 0.45 above the cum that the guys have had while they've been here. And it's a testament to our academic support staff, a testament to our coaching staff, and obviously our players as well. Lou Coralla, our head strength coach, does an amazing job engaging with our players. He's gone viral on social media no less than 10 times over the last 2 months. He actually acts as and this is a byproduct of how good he is. He's probably the head strength coach for 30% of the high schools in the Southeast, because he posts his workouts and what the Georgia Tech football team is doing. And then we've learned that the high school coaches just forward those workouts to their teams. So that piece of the branding and marketing and getting Georgia Tech football ingrained in the high school coaching community and even high school players has been huge for recruiting. We signed one of the top 2 classes in Georgia Tech football history this last recruiting class. Right now, we're on pace, even though I can't talk specifics, to have another top 20 recruiting class, might even be even higher than that. So just excited how we've handled this recruiting, how we've handled our team. The development through strength and conditioning has been really, really good. We this year we've inherited the 4th toughest schedule in college football, and that's a testament to the competition that we have in our league and the out of conference play that we've scheduled. And our guys are excited about it. They're training towards it. But the really cool thing is, by having a small senior class last year, we were able to develop a lot of young players, and we actually returned the 2nd most production in college football. Then you add 3 transfers from last year, one from Notre Dame, one from the University of Florida, one from the University of Miami, that didn't get to play last season. to that great recruiting class, to that production. So we're just really excited about the future, really excited about the direction of Georgia Tech football, and truly thank you for all that you do, all of your support, and being there for our student athletes as they represent the white and gold at a ridiculously high level. And I'm blessed and proud to be the head football coach here. And, thank you for all you guys do.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
And just to piggyback onto something he said about recruiting, and I think that it goes back to when I initially got here and I talked about that we were underselling our brand, and that at the end of the day, I felt that we should be in the same conversations with recruits as Stanford and Notre Dame and other academically elite athletic programs. And that is now happening. And while we can't necessarily talk about commitments and this sort of thing, we are now in those conversations and we are winning some of those battles. And it goes back to we were in a coaches meeting in the fall, and our women's tennis coach started to get a little teary-eyed in there, and I wasn't quite sure, he had gotten a text and had something happen at home or whatever, and then he disclosed to us in that meeting he had just got a commitment from the highest-ranked women's tennis player that Georgia Tech has ever received, and it's the first time he ever beat Stanford head-to-head on a recruit. And so the brand, elevating the brand, it is happening, and I think across the board, all of our coaches are in those fist fights every single day, and we're providing them with the artillery they need to win those battles. And a lot of it is who is Georgia Tech, what do we stand for, and why are we? What are our differentiators, and how we're going to win being Georgia Tech, knowing that there are things that other institutions can do that we can't do, but there are things that we can do that they can't do. And one of them is they cannot duplicate our location, and that location has incredible advantages because of the opportunities it provides, along with just the nature of Georgia Tech. And what the Institute provides young men and young women to prepare to be pros, and then that not being the end of the story, but just another chapter as they move on to success beyond that. Our current priorities, and this is as this thing was unfolding during the spring into March. And we got to just before spring break, or the week before spring break, and all of a sudden the NBA shut down, and the dominoes started to fall. Our priorities were, number one, the safety of our student athletes and staff. So we immediately got them off campus when it was when we saw what was going on and how we needed to stop and mitigate this thing. And so our student athletes were sent home. Our staff was sent home to work from home. I don't think any of us had any idea that we would be 2 months later still in the situation that we're in. But our number one priority was their safety. And our coaches, sports medicine, nutrition, mental health, strength and conditioning, and academics immediately went into hyper mode. And how do we provide support for our student athletes so that they're safe, that they're getting what they need from a mental and physical wellness aspect, and that they're in a safe place. The second thing was, how do we make sure that they continue to progress academically, knowing that ultimately at some point this was going to end, and we got to make sure that we're eligible, we're progressing towards graduation, And of course, we couldn't have been more success. I don't think we would have had any idea at that time how successful we would ultimately be. But in 1 week, our academic support team turned around 285 plus tutoring sessions a week, going from in-person to online, being delivered anywhere in the world. And quite frankly, a lot of the things that we've learned through this, we will end up using well beyond this crisis because of the successes that we've seen, not only in academics, but nutrition, as well as the total person program and what we're doing in strength and conditioning, and our ability to meet students and student athletes where they are. And so incredibly successful there. And of course, now the summer's about to start. We've got 30, I think it's 33, 34 freshmen starting the Jumpstart Jackets program next week. And of course, it's all virtual. And the programming is state of the art and what you would expect from Georgia Tech. And then the third thing was being ready to go. That we knew once we got the green light from USG, the Institute, CDC, and local authorities that we would be able to start to come back to campus with our student athletes. We wanted to make sure that our coaches, our student athletes, everybody, when given the green light, would be ready to go, and we wouldn't have to take a step back or any of those kinds of things. And so what's been happening over the last 2 months, virtually, was really focused on making sure that our kids were making progress and that they would be academically eligible, and then that they would be ready to go when we got the green light. And then the fourth thing is evaluating the impact of lost revenue, not only for this past year, which we're in year end right now, due to the men's Final Four, which is a significant amount of revenue to all institutions. So we've been in the process of evaluating the impact of that lost revenue, as well as not finishing off some of our or all of our spring sports. And then what does that look like in the future over this next year? And of course, those are things that we're working on right now to fill the holes that we have for 20. And then knowing that there's a lot of unknowns with 21, or how do we need to be prepared for all kinds of different scenarios, and that's what we're in the process of doing now. Before I talk about capital projects, but leave the slide up here, I will say that as we have 2 task forces right now that are working on, one on getting our student athletes back to campus as soon as we can and get them back into the regular routine and training schedules and those types of things. And then, and so how do we bring our student athletes back into a safe environment? What does that look like? And then the second task force is, how do we provide a safe environment for our fans once we get to the fall and we start having, when we start having games again? And not only how do we provide a safe environment, but how do we make sure that our fans feel safe in that environment? So we have 2 task forces working around the clock to try and put together the protocols that are going to be necessary. One of the advantages of being at Georgia Tech is we have some of the greatest minds, scientists, and engineers on our faculty that are literally working on these issues, not just locally, but internationally, especially in conjunction with Emory and the CDC. So we are literally in the epicenter of the fight against COVID-19. And fortunately, we're able to tap into a lot of that expertise because it's right here. And so they are members of, so we do have those types of experts that are members of our 2 task forces. As far as capital projects are concerned, of course, we don't want to stand still despite our circumstances, so we're continuing to move forward. with the men's or the women's basketball locker room renovation. We actually started construction May 18th. Baseball is we're set to begin the next phase of Russ Chandler Phase 2, June 15th. The track project, which is a renovated track locker room facility, is on track for approval. And then the O'Keefe Gymnasium, where our volleyball plays right now, because most of you realize from your time here, O'Keefe has definitely been around a while. So we do have to do a historical study, and that's what we're in the process of doing, is a historical study to see what it is that we can and can't do with O'Keefe because of the age of that building. But all four of those projects are either shovel in the ground or in process, and really, really excited because it shows that Georgia Tech athletics is continuing to move forward, and we're going to continue to progress despite our circumstances, which I think plays right into the way that we do things at Georgia Tech and our ability to solve problems and pivot when necessary. And so I'm happy to report that these projects are moving forward. Just a little bit more information regarding the track locker room renovation. It's a $2 million project. 1.1 million has been raised to date, and you can see there the various naming opportunities. So of course we're in active fundraising mode for this project. Really excited. We anticipate starting to knock walls down and get in there to start construction in the spring of 21. The designs have been made, and so we're really excited. And anybody that's, especially if you ran track here, as I did, this is a project that is long overdue. It will affect both the men and the women, and a really, really exciting project for that program. Which leads me last to the Edge, which is the anchor of our AI 2020 fundraising initiative. We are, as many of you probably know, we did get a $10 million challenge gift or challenge match that basically anything that we can anything raised up to June 30 will be matched up to $10 million. We're probably within 4 million of being able to match the whole 10 million. And what that means to donors is that anything that you would donate to this project will be matched by an anonymous donor. And so essentially from a naming opportunity standpoint, you will double the value of your donation. So this is front and center of our priority right now for our 4AT, and it's all hands on deck as we are on the 5-yard line and need to punch this thing in, knowing that we're going to need to pivot here shortly, get this thing off the list so that we can focus on the money that's going to be needed we're going to need to raise money to deal with the COVID-19 situation, knowing that we're going to definitely have some revenue gaps at which we just don't know how large they're going to be, but we really want in the next 30 days close out the Edge. And just for everybody's information that may not recognize the importance of this, the Edge building, which in my opinion, was built in 1981 when we moved in, my sophomore year, really was the linchpin in the renaissance of Georgia Tech athletics. When you think that 10 years later we had won a national championship in football, Final Four in basketball, we're a year or two away from the College World Series. David Duval, Stuart Sink were here. I mean, just an incredible time to be part of Georgia Tech athletics in that late 80s, early 90s. And none of that would have happened without the Edge building. It was cutting edge, and we are there now we're at that crossroads again. And specifically strength and conditioning, sports medicine, nutrition, academics, total person, all the areas that affect every student athlete in our program, what our coaches recruit to, will be in this building. And unfortunately, Jeff had to leave, but right now, Jeff is not using the Edge at all in recruiting, which tells you that those 4 areas, which are so incredibly important to our program and really center to our brand, especially when we talk about when we get a student athlete, we got to make them into a better student athlete. So recruiting, building a better student athlete, and winning are directly tied to this project. So this is our main focus in trying to get this thing to the finish line in the next 30 days so that we can close this out, go into design, and get this thing up and running as quickly as possible. So before June 30th, we need to raise that $4 million for Edge. And we need to close out our fundraising through the annual fund for our athletic scholarships, which right now we're about $600,000 from our FY20 goal. If we meet, or when we meet these goals, this will make this year actually our best fundraising year in the history of Georgia Tech athletics, surpassing last year. So this is just an incredible tribute to obviously our coaches and our student athletes, because it's their story that we're selling. It's the opportunity to provide young people with a Georgia Tech education, but it's also to our donors that despite all the things going on, March was the best March we had ever had fundraising in Georgia Tech athletics history. So we need to finish strong, and we need to put back to the back-to-back fundraising years so that we're in a position to continue to give our student athletes and coaches what they need to compete at the highest level. So I'm now going to turn it over with who I believe is the model of what it is that we're trying to do across the board. Coach Hepler has led a program for close to 30 years and competed at the national level. And this is where I believe, and I know everybody associated with Georgia Tech athletics believes, all of our programs should be competing at. And so I'm now going to turn it over to Bruce for some of his thoughts.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate the opportunity. First off, I want to thank everybody who's on board here. Been blessed with incredible support for the 25 or 26 years I've had here. Obviously, this year was kind of ended in a disappointing way with where we were ranked and with the young men we had on the team. But they're all committed to moving forward. And great news is the seniors graduated and we'll move on. And again, the place just produces more successfully all the time. I also want to kind of say, while I had the opportunity, it's been a real honor for me to be your golf coach for these many years. It was a decision I made in 1995 that turned out to be great for me and for my family. I've raised 2 Yellow Jackets, and they're off in school now, but family loves the place. I do remember, and I guess I'll be a bit of a historian today. I remember when I came here in 1995, we had just won the national championship at Oklahoma State and had defeated Tiger Woods, which I thought was quite an accomplishment when it happened. He's not lost many times since. And I was being brought to Dr. Rice's office, and I came in and I was nervous, and I've told the story. I wasn't sure I was in the South now, which fork to use and which knife to use, and was pretty intimidated by the entire experience I was going through. And Homer just said that he'd asked a bunch of people who he should hire, and my name kept coming up over and over again. And so he basically told me, you're no longer interviewing here. You're interviewing us. And that the whole thing flipped, which was really kind of amazing when it happened. And as we talked further, I did pose the question as to why he would recommend or why he would suggest that I should come and be the golf coach at Georgia Tech. And I'll never forget it. He told me that the reason why he would coach here is he's never met another group of people of all of his years in college athletics who love their school more than Georgia Tech people do. And that if I would come here, we would be supported in an incredible way. And the answer to that it's the complete truth as I think about what we've accomplished since 1995. And it's all been because of the support of people like yourselves and others who've supported the golf program. And I've often been asked this question in my athletic career, which kind of comes first, the winning or the support? And it's a really simple answer. The support has to come before the winning. It's kind of ancient history now, and I really don't want to bring it up, maybe going into a contract year, but my first 2 years here, we actually finished last in the conference. And it was not fun, and it wasn't real great, but at the same time, I had a group of people who believed in what we were doing, who believed in Georgia Tech and believed in our guys, and we didn't have anywhere to play. And through the efforts of us not succeeding at that level on the golf course at the time, we were able to get a membership at the Golf Club of Georgia and at Eastlake, and the innings of what became the Noonan all happened during that time. And all that support came before the winning. And then since then, we've kind of seen what's happened. And again, want to give most of the credit to the people who have supported our program and our team. There is no question that the support has to come first. And so as you all have heard and recognize the financial situation that we're in, you're in, it's tough times for everybody. And we're going to need y'all more than ever. I spoke several months ago at a meeting and kind of explained that those football stadiums with an extra 50,000 people in them, the difference has to be made up by you guys, and you've done that, and we're all extremely grateful. Kind of another history lesson I did when I came to that Edge building in 1995, as Todd said, it was kind of cutting edge. I walked in and there was a dining hall, there's an academic center, there was offices, there was a museum, the training room was all in one place, and I was taken aback by what I saw. And in the places I'd worked before, I had nothing like that. And those of you who come to campus now, and of us older folks, you drive around and you see all these new wonderful classrooms and laboratories and buildings, and campus has become a beautiful place to show. It's really a wonderful place to show off as you see what's happened in Midtown and across the bridge. And it's really become a very vibrant place. That there's only one problem: that Edge building's still the same. And it's the same place, and it is tired, and it just does not meet the needs. And I know a lot of people feel like college is a bit of an arms race, and it kind of is. But we have not really mentioned those people. We've mentioned the departments in sports medicine, in the physical training, in nutrition, and all those things. We were at the cutting edge a long time ago, and we've slipped. But we do have the right people. Now we just need a place for them to work. And so I would encourage all of you. I know times are tough and things are hard, but there's a matching opportunity here where $1 becomes $2, and those don't come along very often. It is the central place of where our young people eat, study, interact, gain strength, gain all of those type of things. And I think that building sitting on the corner will make a tremendous difference, the first view to Georgia Tech athletics for people coming to see us. And again, acknowledging all that you've done. You've made my program what it is. We've been able to basically keep our scholarships endowed. We've raised money to supplement our travel and recruiting and those kind of things. So we have been able to do anything that anybody else has been able to do because of the support that we've had, and that needs to continue, obviously, in my sport, but also for all of us. So thank you so much for all that you've done. Became an honorary alum a couple years ago, so I really feel attached to the place, and again, appreciate all that you've done and wish you the best in these troubling times, and look forward to seeing you when we get open again.
Thanks, Bruce. And we were all brokenhearted knowing that you had a special team this year, but we also know that you have a way of putting together special teams all the time. So keep it up, and we're really excited going into this next year to watch this new group you got coming up, because you got a group of really, really special young men that make us all proud. I know that one of the big questions on everybody's mind is what's going to happen and when, as far as bringing student athletes back to campus and getting ready for the fall, and are we going to have football and all those kinds of things. And we're playing football, and we are preparing to play our fall sports as scheduled. And the first phase of that is starting to get student athletes back on campus in a very controlled environment, so that they can start to work out and prepare. And so you'll be hearing something shortly, maybe later today, on what phase one is going to look like. But just wanted to let you know that we are in process, and it will obviously be a phased-in approach, very slow, because it's one of those things that we want to make sure that we get it right. We need to make sure that our environment is safe, that we can keep our student athletes and staff and coaches safe, and that we don't have any hiccups along the way, knowing that that would not only be a devastating and a major setback for us, but the whole world's watching. And the interesting thing about intercollegiate athletics is, across this country, in most cases, student athletes are going to lead the way back to campus. And so it's really, really important that we get this thing right. I've met with our student athletes. I've met with our student athletes from the fall sports, so that they're fully aware of the incredible responsibility we have, not only to our teammates and our institution, but that ultimately what we do, if successful, leads the way for all college students. And so that's going on right now. We are really, really anxious to get our kids back on campus and get them, and I know they're very anxious to get back. But it will be a phased-in approach, and as we meet certain guidelines set by USG and the governor's office and public health, we will expand our capacity and move beyond strength and conditioning facilities to other facilities as well. So with that, I don't know if we have any questions.
Yeah, we got a couple, Todd.
Okay.
So first off, I know you spoke a little bit about making sure we're focusing on the health and safety of student athletes and fans looking towards football season. What will be the first stuff fans start to hear from us regarding football season, and what's the timeline maybe on that?
Sure. Well, I think you're gonna hear something, as I say today, about phase one, what that looks like, what the timing's like, but everything will be moving towards that ultimate goal of lining up August 3rd against Clemson. That is ultimately our goal. And so there are certain things that have to happen for that to for us to meet those deadlines. And so what we're doing in conjunction with public health is working on what those phases look like, and knowing that we've got to be able to get our student athletes back to campus at least a few weeks in advance of practice, so that they're able to get in the appropriate amount of conditioning and acclimation and those types of things in. So you'll be hearing more, the first of which is going to be phase one that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And then it'll be, while we have plans on how we're going to move forward, it will be kind of steady as it goes, and as we meet various benchmarks.
Thank you for that. Next question talks about finances a little bit, with just the impact of COVID-19 and possibly major revenue sports not producing the same extent they have. How are athletic associations preparing to handle that for the upcoming year?
Well, that's we're in the process right now of all of our sports are working on significant budget cuts within their sports. All of our units are doing the same. We will be following the USG and Institute furlough guidelines. So all of us will be furloughed for in a progressive manner. So we're looking at all the obviously on all the expense side of things on where we can reduce expenses, looking at the potential of regional scheduling as opposed to what we typically would do as a national schedule across all sports. Is it possible to in areas where we haven't already contracted out, move to some more regional play, at least for 1 year. All these things are being looked at, as well as where is there potential new revenue, and then we've got scenarios that we're having to build for various levels of ticket sales based on what the health situation is at the time. But our goal, and you're doing all that in the context of the health and safety of your fans and what you can do, and the guidance that we'll be receiving from the CDC and other public and governmental officials and the USG. So we got a lot of moving parts in this, and there's no roadmap that we can use. We are literally building it from scratch. So we're in a very precarious situation, and that's why our goal is let's finish out strong in June, and knowing that we're going to have to move and pivot once we get into the new year on our fundraising priorities are going to be how do we that's the one area that we can really help ourselves in the short term in filling whatever holes may exist, not knowing how big those holes may ultimately be.
Thank you, Todd. Got a couple construction questions here. So there's some talk about improvements being made to Bobby Dodd Stadium that are happening prior to the season. Anything you can speak to on that?
Sure. Well, we've already changed out the lights. And so that is already done. And anybody that's seen some of the tweets as far as we can now change the color of the lights in the stadium. So as part of our tribute, Midtown's tribute to healthcare workers and frontline healthcare workers in Atlanta and beyond, we've been able to participate by turning the stadium blue. And anybody that's seen any of the shots of that, it is just spectacular. In fact, that's one of the things that has gone viral social media wise, is just that stadium. It looks like something from outer space, how beautiful it is. But so that's being done. We're in the process of doing just a lot of maintenance stuff. The good news is that we have a maintenance plan that we've been able to put in place, and due to some things that we were able to do in refinancing some of our bonds, and obviously where interest rates are, we were able to identify a certain amount of money that has to be spent on Bobby Dodd Stadium. So I don't necessarily want to comment on a lot of the other things that are ongoing, just because I know, because of the situation we're in, we're not able to fully guarantee that some things get done before the season. But I'll just say this, that as we get more information where we know we can actually get it done, even under the COVID-19 circumstances, we'll definitely get that information out there. And I know I don't know if Mark, who's on this call and in charge of our capital projects, wants to comment further on that. Or did he freeze up? Hey, Mark, do you have any other comments on what we may want to, what we're doing this summer, Bobby Dodd wise, prior to the season? And you're on mute.
Yes. We started planning prior to COVID-19 for some improvements to Bobby Dodd, which included some restroom work, and some desperately needed painting and some waterproofing in Bobby Dodd, as well as new signage, replacing signs on your seats, replacing signage in the stadium to make it more easier to get around Bobby Dodd. And we're also looking into getting a new sound system installed in Bobby Dodd, because we know the problems that's created over the last few years. So new lights, new sound, new signage, some restroom improvements, all those things are on the board. And as Todd said, some are going to happen, and we're working with contractors to see what we can get done over the summer prior to folks returning to Bobby Dodd Stadium. So it's very exciting. I think when folks return to Bobby Dodd, they'll notice these improvements, and that's just probably the first step. And hopefully in the next summer, we'll be able to make other improvements as well. So that's the Bobby Dodd updates.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, and we got our last question here that's actually for Coach Hepler, if you don't mind unmuting your mic, Coach. It talks about specifically with golf and some of those other sports, how are you working with the new scholarship limitations and the extra year of eligibility that has been introduced with all these new compliance rules following COVID-19?
Wow, big question. Obviously, the way the ruling came down is from a financial aid aspect, that anyone who wants to come back and get that extra year this first time, their scholarship amounts do not fit into the 4.5 that we have on a regular basis. So we've probably not really to make any announcement yet as to who those are that are coming back or whatever, but those are still conversations are still ongoing. But I think because of the endowment that we have and some of the resources that we have, we'd be able to meet the needs of the young men if anybody wants to come back. The challenge really becomes in the following years as you've recruited out and made your offers and done those things. Now everybody within the program, if needed, if wished, will have an extra year. So that's, the spreadsheet's got a little complicated, as now everybody within that has and it can move a year forward. But it was a nice gesture. It'll be interesting to see how many people take advantage of that. It really hasn't been announced yet, but the PGA Tour will soon announce, if they have not, that there'll be no Korn Ferry Q School this fall, which means there really is no entry whatsoever into professional golf for the young men who just finished this spring. So I think a lot of places will have folks back strengthening their teams and their programs. So obviously it's an individual decision for each person. Excited for Andy Ogletree. It looked like he'd lost an awful lot there in about a 3-month period, but good news is, as an amateur, he gets to begin at Colonial. Y'all can have another Yellow Jacket to watch on tour. He'll have an opportunity to play as an amateur in Colonial. Again, keeping fingers crossed that the tour does begin when they say they are, and then he'll head up to Jack's Place and compete at Memorial, and then go to Hilton Head and play there. Hopefully have a chance to defend his U.S. Amateur in Oregon, and then a wonderful opportunity to play in the United States Open in his first major championship, and then finish with the Masters in November. Good news for us is he still has to be an amateur in November to play in the Masters, which still leaves some opportunities for him. Wishing him the very best, that we don't ever see him in our uniform again, but certainly wouldn't mind being a soft landing place for him. Excited that he graduated. A great story from Mississippi. Was told by many, 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 many people over there, don't go to Atlanta, don't go to Georgia Tech, you'll never finish and you won't get any better. And the good news is he graduated in 4 years and he's the United States Amateur Champion. So a great story there. And so it's nice for the NCAA to do that. And we'll kind of figure out how that impacts our program over the next several months.
All right, and I think those are all our questions. So Todd, if you'd like to do a wrap up.
Sure. I just want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for the incredible support and being able to, you're the reason we're in the position that we are to compete at the highest level at an institution that has no peers. As you know, there's no academic peer trying to do what we're trying to do athletically, and certainly our athletic peers are not what we're doing on the Hill. So appreciate all your support and look forward to getting back to some whatever normal is going to be, but where we can interact like this face to face, and we hope that you are all well, that you're safe, that you stay safe, and can't wait for our fall sports to get up and running so that we can all get back together. Appreciate Bruce and Brittany and Maureen putting this thing on, Jim Hall. Appreciate your leadership at AT, and your staff has done a remarkable job of putting together 2 back-to-back record-setting years. And so next 30 days, let's make this the best year ever. Thanks.